Battlefield 6 launched to much success and immediately jumped into its post-launch support, a play that usually is a great way to capitalize on the hype surrounding the project, but since the middle of November, we've only seen a new map variant, LTM, melee weapon, and a few other things introduced. Season 2 is delayed until the 17th of next month, while today, we got our first of a few updates to Battlefield 6's sort of Season 1 extension. Today's update, 1.1.3.5, included a handful of changes to improve the gameplay flow and feel, while ultimately still being an interesting one that may leave you wanting more. Today we're running down what you need to know, so make sure you drop a like if you enjoy the video, and make sure to subscribe for more Battlefield 6 and other FPS coverage. I'd love to have in the community, but for now, let's get into it. So first, their dubbed main points of the update were improved responsiveness, consistency, and sprint behavior for melee attacks, including knives and sledgehammers. This is something that they do reiterate multiple times in the weapon category. They also said they updated jet combat balance by reducing jet cannon effectiveness against other air vehicles. Something I've seen a lot of talk about how that wasn't really a necessary point to be made, but a point that was made no less. And they updated and refined the UI and HUD across multiplayer and RedSec, improving armor bar visibility, reticle presentation, and menu navigation. Now, a lot of that is like top-down things here, things that are a bit more ambiguous in some areas, but beyond that, we had some further categories detailed a bit more directly, where vehicles, they fixed an issue where vehicles could explode when a takedown was performed on an enemy soldier lying on top of them. One of those odd use cases that probably doesn't happen too much for you, but was something that wasn't supposed to be intended. They again reduced the jet cannon damage against jets and helicopters, requiring approximately 40% more hits to destroy enemy air targets. So again, you can see why a lot of people weren't necessarily fond of that change, but it unfortunately is a change that was made with this update. Weapons, again, they improved the responsiveness, consistency, and sprint behavior of things like melee attacks, but also improved consistency of recoil modifiers when using a controller across different weapons. They improved how sprint is interrupted when performing melee attacks. Sprint will now only be interrupted until the attack reaches its target rather than the full-on duration of the animation. In the firing range, target dummies can now take damage while in the process of getting back up. That was a smaller thing that I definitely had noticed was like kind of odd whenever the game launched up until this point, but it's also not one of those crucial things that I think needs to be a top priority for some of the fixes within the game. Shooting with a suppressor now also emits a small muzzle flash when viewed from close range only. So you're not going to see this across the map or anything like that, but only in those very close quarter situations. And then buried in the patch notes is one that I think is something that is actually pretty beneficial depending on whether you need it for color blindness or you just want to change some of the customization of your reticles. But now in the UI and HUD options, you have the ability to customize your reticle color inside the weapons and gadget scopes. So making that a custom color of your own, not necessarily just a red or something like that. Unfortunately, it is still something that is universally applied, so you can't change one or two optics and leave the others the same or vice versa. But it is something you do have now, some of that agency over the color that you end up interacting with, which is, I think, a nice thing and something that I thought would have been included a little bit closer to launch, but we do have that now. Also, kind of a note, that's one of the highlights of the update, so you can see what I mean, where a lot of people may have wanted more out of this update. But beyond that, we also did see some additional changes for the Battlefield Pro tiers and escalation as a game mode. This was made in addition to the update itself. Wasn't explicitly laid out in the patch notes, but for the Battlefield Pro tiers, it said alongside today's update, we addressed issues affecting progression on the time-limited Battlefield Pro Pass. Due to an earlier challenge configuration, some players were unable to earn enough Battle Pass points through normal progression. In some cases, players used tier skips to complete the pass or had already completed affected challenges before additional points were added, preventing further progress. To resolve this, path rewards from the Pro Pass will now be granted to all eligible players with this update. Affected players can claim these rewards via the in-game mailbox. This ensures players who were blocked from completing the pass, including those who purchased tier skips or completed challenges prior to the fix, receive their intended rewards, even though the pass has since expired. So, of course, nice that this has been remedied, but at the same time, there's still some lingering questions here surrounding this. As in, will there be any refunds for those tier skips used is a common one that I see, or what's the case here with it? But they did mitigate some of this with this update. And then escalation, they said with the release of game update 1.1.3.5, we've made a small follow-up adjustment to escalation informed by post-launch match data. Following earlier changes that extended escalation match length, vehicle activation has now been slightly slower to better align with the longer flow of matches. This helps ensure full vehicle availability is reserved for rounds in which two teams have a close fight all the way to the end. So some adjustments there in regards to that sort of balance from start to finish on the match, but if you play Escalation, you may notice this. Otherwise, might not be a big deal. But all in all, that's the update. Yes, there was some other stuff here that you'll see on screen that are lesser and more smaller notes of the patch notes themselves, but like all in all, that is the highlights out of this update, which again, for a lot of people, may leave you wanting more. Now, that content side of things here that we'll see, of course, we won't have anything major until Season 2. But as of next week on the 27th, that's when we see things like new customization rewards, including a weapon package and a soldier skin, as well as XP boosts available in the Frostfire bonus path. That being another free extension of the Battle Pass, similar to what we've seen in the last two extensions here, where the only thing that's different is that all bonus path points for the Frostfire path are earned via weekly challenges exclusively. There's no bonus path challenges associated with this, just the weekly challenges. On top of that, of course, you can still complete it concurrently alongside the Season 1 Battle Pass if you haven't done so already, but it is just additional extra things that you can end up doing for those challenge completions. But outside of that, again, we're kind of just left waiting until the 17th now. Season 2 does kick off on the 17th. We saw that little 7-second teaser with the gas mask theme, perhaps relating to what people have rumored is like gas grenades of sorts. We also hear that helicopter blade whizzing around for that 7-second clip. That could maybe mean the Little Bird is finally coming, if that's a teaser for that, or it could be something relating to RedSec. We don't quite know, but those are some things that we do have on the table, and I'd imagine we start to see some Season 2 previews starting like the first or second week of February as little teasers leading up to what we have on the launch. But until then, I wouldn't quite hold my breath, unfortunately. All in all, this update did offer up quite a bit of smaller updates here and there, some quality of life things that some meaningful, others you may have encountered once or twice and not ever thought about. But I do think that this is kind of the sum of a disappointing end to the season where, like, you could easily say, wow, I wish there was more to this update, but also logically, it's an extension update predating an extension coming next week with some content to tide players over until a new season and a whole sort of content drop there. This was never going to be a big update despite us maybe wanting it to be, but even to that end, it still feels more of like a whimper to push out the extension rather than anything else. There's not a whole ton to differentiate today on Battlefield 6 from any other day in the last 2 months, which is an unfortunate statement, but it is an update that did offer some adjustments here that I want to fill you guys in on. So let me know your thoughts down below. Are you guys looking forward to the update coming next week with the bonus path? Do you like what we saw out of today's update? Do you think it's just something that is unfortunately something that just happened and you'll come back with Season 2 to check it out? Let me know your thoughts down below. What do you guys think? If you guys enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Battlefield 6 and even more FPS content. Love to have you in the community, but for now, thanks so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care and peace.